Hi guys, and welcome back to another true crime video. Today we're talking about the killing of Tim McLean, which is unlike anything I've ever read before. Let's get into it. It was a typical Wednesday evening in July when Tim McLean, a 22-year-old carnival worker, was riding a bus along the Trans-Canada Highway. McLean had been working as a carnival barker in Edmonton, Alberta, and was returning to his home in Winnipeg. He departed Edmonton on Greyhound bus 1170 and took a seat at the back, one row in front of the toilet. At 6:55 p.m, the bus departed from a stop in Erickson, Manitoba, with a new passenger, Vince Lee. Lee was described as a tall man in his 40s with a shaved head and wearing sunglasses. Upon boarding the bus, he first sat near the front, but then moved to sit next to McLean after a scheduled rest stop in Brandon. McLean barely acknowledged Lee and fell asleep against the window pane, headphones covering his ears. According to witnesses, McLean was sleeping with his headphones on when the man sitting next to him suddenly produced a large knife and began stabbing him in the neck and chest. As a result, the bus driver pulled to the side of the road and he and all the other passengers fled the vehicle. This is just insane. Like, how did it go from that point to this point? This is why it's one of the stories that just baffles me. The driver and two other men did try to rescue McLean, but were chased away by Lee, who slashed at them from behind locked bus doors. And it gets so much worse than this. Lee proceeded to decapitate McLean and displayed his severed head through a window to the passengers, who watched in horror. He then returned to McLean's body, severing other parts of the body, and began eating some of the flesh. And witnesses said this went on for a few hours. At 8:30 p.m, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in Portage-la-Prairie received a report of a stabbing on a Greyhound bus west of the city. They arrived to find the suspect still on the bus, being prevented from escaping by another passenger, the bus driver, and a truck driver who provided a crowbar and a hammer as weapons. The other passengers were huddled at the side of the road, crying and vomiting. Lee had attempted to drive the bus away, but the bus driver engaged the emergency immobilizer, rendering the vehicle unusable, which was such a clever thing to do. By 9 p.m, police were in a standoff with Lee with assistance from special negotiators and a heavily armed tactical unit. At this point, Lee was defiling the corpse, and police then saw Lee eating parts of the body. You would think that it's bad enough having to witness that, but this obviously was going on for quite some time. He was eating the body for a while. During this time, officers reportedly heard Lee say, "I have to stay on the bus forever." At 1:30 a.m, Lee tried to escape the bus by breaking through a window, but he didn't get very far and was soon arrested. He was shot twice with a taser, was handcuffed and put in the back of a police cruiser. Parts of the victim's body were retrieved, but the ear, nose and tongue were found in Lee's pockets. Not only this, the victim's eyes and a part of his heart were never found, and even though he denies it, it's presumed Lee ate them. Garnot Caton, a witness, said that Lee seemed unaware of other passengers when he began stabbing McLean and was strangely calm. There was no rage or anything. He was like a robot stabbing the guy. A couple of days prior to the incident, Lee had boarded a Greyhound bus bound for Winnipeg. The following day, Lee got off the bus in Erickson, Manitoba, with his luggage and stayed the night on a bench next to a grocery store. According to one witness, he was seen at 3 a.m. sitting bolt upright with eyes wide open. It just sounds like he's possessed. Honestly, that is just not normal, and it's actually terrifying. Imagine just seeing someone sat staring, like literally staring ahead. And then also imagine finding out that this had happened and then knowing that you had seen him just sitting there. You know, it's just haunting. When he appeared in a Portage-la-Prairie courthouse, the only words reportedly uttered by Lee were, "Please kill me." Lee's trial commenced on the 3rd of March 2009, which was about 8 months after the incident, and Lee pled not criminally responsible on account of mental disorder. His doctor said that his schizophrenia rendered him unculpable, as he had been under the false belief that McLean was a force of evil and posed an imminent threat to himself and others. In Lee's mind, McLean was really a demon in disguise and an alien who needed to be destroyed, to the point where he felt that it was necessary to mutilate McLean's body to prevent him from coming back to life. Lee had also felt pressured to perform the attack by voices he believed were from God, telling him to kill McLean sitting beside him or he would be killed himself. So, self-defense, I guess. Both the defense and the prosecution were in agreement with the assessment and spoke in favour of involuntary commitment at a mental institution rather than prison time. The judge accepted the diagnosis and ruled that Lee was not criminally responsible for the killing, which is why it's called the killing of Tim McLean rather than the murder of Tim McLean. Lee was remanded to the Selkirk Mental Health Centre. I mean, it did sound like he had some severe mental health issues, and I'm just thinking hoping that there must have been enough evidence to suggest that he wasn't responsible for that crime. The family of Tim McLean have brought a lawsuit of £150,000 against Greyhound, the Attorney General of Canada, and Vince Lee himself. As of July 2018, so 10 years after the incident, according to Timothy McLean Sr., the lawsuit was in limbo. Back on the 17th of May 2012, it was reported that Lee had been granted temporary passes that would allow him out of the Selkirk Mental Health Centre. This was to visit the town of Selkirk, supervised by a nurse and a peace officer. In an interview with Chris Somerville of the Schizophrenia Society of Canada, Lee spoke publicly for the first time, sharing that his condition is slowly improving. He's being prescribed olanzapine and was learning about schizophrenia as well as ways he can cope with it in a healthy manner. Lee also affirmed his guilt, saying that he can never forget the Greyhound bus and believes that he'll never be happy again, acknowledging that the McLean family will likely never forgive him. When asked for parting words, Lee offered an apology to McLean's mother, stating that, "I would like to say to Tim McLean's mother, I'm sorry for killing your son. I'm sorry for the pain I have caused. I wished I could reduce that pain." In July 2014, it was reported that one of the first officers on the scene, Corporal Ken Barker, had unalived himself. The family stated in his obituary that he suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. And on the 10th of February 2017, the Manitoba Criminal Code Review Board ordered Lee be discharged. There will also be no legal obligations or restrictions pertaining to Lee's independent living, so he is essentially a free man. This is such an interesting case because, unlike many other cases, there isn't someone to be blamed for it. There is normally someone that we can vent our frustrations on and be angry at, as in the murderer, but in this case, we have no outlet for that. Mental illness is such a fascinating, disturbing thing, and obviously it can mess with someone's mind so much to this extent. Just having complete control over someone's thoughts and someone's actions, it just really shows us that we need to pay more attention to it and it needs to be studied further. As it is the true villain in this case, we have to treat mental illness as important as physical illness, right? And if we look back at the facts, Vince Lee did have some symptoms and therefore showed signs that his mental health was declining. Having that knowledge and awareness of the signs could literally save someone's life. I know this was a very dark and different kind of case today, but I really hope you enjoyed it. And if there are any true crime cases that you would like me to cover in particular, please let me know in the comments. But thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next one.